For those around the table, please turn on your microphone when speaking. For those participating via Zoom, please state your name and making a comment or asking a question. We will now begin the meeting with a roll call of all members.
Thank you, Chair. I'll go down the list, and if you could please unmute and indicate if you are present. Chair Bander.
Present.
Thank you. Jeffrey Barton. Ben Bitter.
Here.
Thank you. Scott Butler.
Present.
Thank you. Greg Caton.
Here.
Thank you. Andrew Ching.
Here.
Thank you. Ron Corbin.
Here.
Thank you. Henry Darwin.
Here.
Thank you. Crystal Dykes.
Present.
Thank you. Bruce Gardner.
Here.
Thank you. Rachel Goodwin. Rosa Inchausti.
Present.
Thank you. Suzanne Jones. Jeff Kulaga. Thank you. Leo Liu.
Love.
Thank you. Vice Chair Madrano. Alexis Tamarin Kinsey as proxy for Jessica Mefford Miller. Thank you. Jennifer Jack as proxy for Brian Myers.
Here.
Thank you. Grady Miller.
Here.
Thank you. Gary Neese. Kevin Phelps.
Present.
Thank you. Calvin Pilcher.
Here.
Thank you. Jen Pekorski, or actually, I'm sorry, Chris Reams as proxy for Jen Pekorski.
Yeah.
Thank you. Ryan Peters as proxy for John Pombier. Well, well timed. Thank you.
Somebody take a picture of that.
Rob Whistler as proxy for Bryant Powell.
Present.
Thank you. Lynette Reed.
Present.
Thank you. Doug Sandstrom. Troy Smith.
Here.
Thank you. Brian Stutzman.
Present.
Thank you. Zach Tretton as proxy for Jennifer Toth.
Present.
Thank you. Catherine Valenzuela.
Present.
Thank you. Bruce Walls. Thank you. Paige Peterson as proxy for Matthew Williams.
Present.
Thank you. Bob Wingenroth.
Here.
Thank you. Eric Godino as proxy for Jeffrey Barton.
Present.
Thank you. Thank you. Mr. Chair, we have quorum.
Okay, thank you. Please now join me for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay, our next item is the call to the audience. I do not see any requests to speak, confirming that's correct. Okay, we will move on to item number 4, informational items. Items 4A through 4C are for information only. Does any member of the committee have any questions or request a presentation on any of these items? Okay, hearing none. Next agenda item number 5, approval of the consent agenda. Items 5A through 5J are on the consent agenda. Does any member of the committee have questions or request a presentation on any of these items? Okay, seeing none, prior to approval of the consent agenda, there is an opportunity for members of the public to comment on any item on the consent agenda. I'm not seeing any requests to speak. Okay, having none, and we have received no online comments, I'll solicit a motion to approve consent items 5A through 5J.
So moved.
So moved by Manager Reed.
Second.
Second by Manager Caton. We have a motion and a second. All those in favor sign aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, nay. Okay. Staff, can you take a roll call of the members participating virtually who did not turn on their camera?
Yes, Rob Whistler, how do you vote?
Aye.
Thank you. And Smith, how do you vote?
Aye.
Thank you. Mr. Chair, motion passes.
Thank you. Okay, we'll move on to item number 6. It's an update on the development of Proposition 479 Transit Life Cycle Program. This item is on the agenda for information and discussion and will be presented by Arminta, I'm going to apologize, Syed. All right. That was luck. Policy and Initiatives Manager. Thank you, Armita.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Good afternoon, members of Management Committee. I'm here today to provide a status update on the development efforts of the Proposition 479 Transit Lifecycle Program. This item is for information only, intended to just provide you an update on where we're at with the development of the program. And this will be the third update to date since we've started this effort, with the last one being in June. So before I get into it, just some quick context, a little bit of reminder. The Transit Lifecycle Program is the management tool for the transit investments that are included in the RSTIP, partially funded through Proposition 479. Those investments get implemented by Valley Metro as well as local agencies. And when it comes to transitioning from Proposition 400 to Proposition 479, regional transit funding sees some of the largest funding policy shifts, mainly in that it's shifting from a fixed funding model to a performance-based funding model. And under the Prop 479 Transit Lifecycle Program, or TLCP, the management of that program will be shifting to MAG, whereas the Prop 400 TLCP management of that was under Valley Metro, and Valley Metro will continue to be responsible for management of that program. This is particularly important because for a little while, there will be overlap of Proposition 400 TLCP projects and expenditures, as well as Proposition 479 TLCP projects and expenditures. So as you can see here on this timeline, we're about to get very close to the sunset of Prop 400 sales tax collections. Should be ending in December 2025. And then in January, the start of 479 collections will begin. However, projects that are funded through Prop 400 will continue on after that, and then new projects that are funded through 479 will initiate at the same time. And so just to make it very clear, what we're talking about today and what we've been talking about here at MAG are those transit projects that will be funded through 479. Those will be governed by the policies and the framework that we discuss here today. And so what you see here on the screen are those different components that there's funding set aside for under the 479 TLCP. The top two include the components for bus transit operations, bus operating assistance being the funding that agencies receive for their local fixed route operations, and then regional services being funding for express service, ADA service, as well as activities supporting regional operations. And then there are two components there at the bottom, funding set aside for capital elements, both from a bus perspective as well as a high capacity transit perspective. So when I last provided an update to this body in June, there was a focus on the bus operating assistance component. Continuing on with that theme, we wanted to work through the summer working with Valley Metro as well as your staff who are part of our TLCP development working group to complete our update of all the bus transit operations funding estimates. We knew this was critical given that you're entering your fiscal 27 budget development season. And so this information is key to being able to move through that. And so when it comes to updating the operations elements, as I mentioned in the last slide, it's really updating that bus operations assistance component as well as that regional services component. So when it comes to transit operations, sales tax funding is the only funding source, regional funding source, I should say, that's available for use on transit operations. So all of these are transit operations, and the first four that you see here on this slide are cost commitments. So the way we're approaching the update of the 479 TLCP is first ensuring that we have funding set aside to cover these first four cost commitments. And then the funding that's left over is then available for the formula funding, which gets allocated to agencies to be used for fixed route operations. So here's a current status of what's currently completed and what's currently outstanding. So almost all the operations estimates have been updated. We're currently working very closely with Valley Metro to finalize the update of the ADA service cost estimate. That's the last cost estimate that is outstanding. We expect that to be done by end of this month. As soon as that's done, we'll also know the balance available for formula funding. And then just moving on, since previously when I provided an update in June, the focus was on the assumptions that went into the bus operating assistance amount. Wanted to focus on some of the assumptions that went into the amount that's been updated for the regionally funded express bus service. So when it comes to regional express bus service, we've really changed the structure of how this service is funded under 479. This is now going to be a service that's fully regionally funded off the top. It's no longer a service that has to be funded out of each agency's individual allocation. And the reason being is because this is intended to be, or this is really a very regional service in nature. It spans multiple jurisdictions. And so as we looked at making investments in this type of service, in this network, really wanted to have that regional perspective going into it. And that's critical now more than ever, given all of the growth that our region is experiencing. You can see that here on this map, which is forecasting out traffic volumes in 2050 on our freeway network. What you can see here in the very, very deep red lines are average weekday traffic volumes that are upwards of 350,000 cars per day. And so adding roadway capacity by itself is not going to significantly move the needle in terms of improving mobility. And so what we need to do is also consider all of the tools in our toolbox, of which express service is one of the most effective tools, especially given the funding constraints that our region has. And why is it such an effective tool? A huge travel market for express service is commuters. Given a number of surveys that we've done in the past in our region, a number of folks who commute to work, the way they commute is in their cars by themselves. If we can get them out of their cars and into a bus instead, that frees up a number of capacity on our roadways. And what that does is it improves travel times during some of our most congested times of the day, our peak periods. And so as we look, though, at the current market for express, we see that ridership has declined, and that's to be expected. We knew that with COVID, travel patterns have changed, particularly because your work patterns have changed. You're no longer having to go 8 to 5 Monday to Friday anymore. Perhaps you have a hybrid environment. Perhaps you don't have to be there for the entire day anymore. And so immediately after COVID, there was a sharp decline. We're seeing that pick back up, but it's not quite back to pre-pandemic levels. So for us, for the region, for the system to really have the express network function and really make a significant improvement in terms of mobility, we really have to set up the network to serve the current market. And so what we see here is an opportunity to optimize the service to better serve the current travel market. And so what we wanted to do with the funding that we set aside for regional express service is we wanted to better understand what is the current market now after COVID, and then what is the current market in the future to 2050. And so we conducted a study. Really, it was an updated market assessment, and then we validated the travel markets by doing some scenario assessments. And what we found was not a surprise. The corridors that had the highest amount of demand for express service also overlapped with those corridors that also had the heaviest traffic volumes in 2050. So I-17, US 60, 10 East to Loop 202 Santan, and then 10 West. And so you can see a bit of an overlap here with those dark red lines and then those routes. We also tested some new express route concepts. For example, connecting from freeway to freeway instead of having stops or deviations in areas like downtown Phoenix, the way it's currently set up. And we saw strong performance for those as well. And so the intent of this study is not to actually make any kind of recommended changes to the network. Rather, it's to set up that framework to show that there is a market out there to be served, and we just have to further evaluate and come up with an implementation plan to be able to do so. And it's really going to be Valley Metro's current effort, their comprehensive operations analysis, which I believe they're now calling their bus network redesign effort. It's a part of that effort where they'll identify recommended changes as well as an implementation plan. And so when it comes to the financial assumptions for the funding that has been set aside right now, in the near term, funding has been set aside just to maintain existing service levels. We will be looking for some minor changes that can be made, whether it's potential route consolidation efforts. A number of those high-performing corridors that I had previously shown are existing routes that are served now, but perhaps by consolidation, there'll be some potential cost savings, and then we'll be able to increase the number of trips on those routes, for example. Also, by potentially eliminating some low-performing routes that don't have a potential to be optimized or to be consolidated, just in an effort to look for cost savings so that we can reinvest that back into a route or a market that has a better potential for higher ridership. And then in the long term, of course, those major changes would again come out of those recommendations out of Valley Metro's current effort, and then it would again come back through this body for another review, consideration, and approval. Okay. And then just to wrap up the presentation today, in terms of the overall timeline for the fiscal 2027 TLCP update, as I had mentioned, there are just a couple of updates remaining in terms of the operations estimates. We expect to have those done by end of this month. We expect to meet with your staff as part of the TLCP working group next month to discuss those estimates, wrap up any final discussion of processes, procedures, and then we expect to come back to this committee early next year, provide some of those updates, and then ultimately, once that's been done, take the final program, updated program through for approval. And so that concludes my presentation today, and I'd be happy to take any questions.
Thank you, Arminta. Do we have any questions? Okay.
Mr. Chair, I just would
yes.
say, I think it's important to think about this express bus conversation because you know where that goes, which is when you're eliminating or redesigning routes, what is existing is changing, and changing means some people are going to feel loss from that. On the other hand, if you look at the numbers, the slide, if you go back to that slide, Arminta, this is a pretty dramatic, that's pretty dramatic. We were serving 5,200 before the pandemic, and today we're serving 1,500. So clearly something has to be redesigned and rethought and redone. The other important thing of it is every dollar that we spend here is $1 less for you to spend in another area of transit that you might find more important to you, or the region might find more important. So again, these trade-offs are going to be tough, and their conversations are going to be difficult because people have built park and rides and have expectations of bus routes. But when you're looking at those numbers, it tells you something has to change. And that's what Arminta and her team and Valley Metro are working on together with your staff, is figure out what does that look like. It's going to be uncomfortable, but it's going to be important and necessary.
Mr. Chair?
Please.
Yeah, kind of follow-up question, Ed, on that. So you gave the example earlier in the slide about 16 vehicles for the bus, and we see the drop off, but there's really two markets. I mean, we're trying to get people out of their vehicle onto a bus, but we also have those who don't have a vehicle at all. And they're totally two different markets. So do we know with this fall off from our 2019 ridership, what percentage? I mean, is it an issue where people who had been riding decided now to go back into their vehicle? Or have we just seen, because of the job market or whatever, we're seeing people who've never owned a vehicle, but just are choosing not to ride on the bus? And so I would assume we would want to have strategies that would address both of those.
Mr. Chair, members of Management Committee, that's a fantastic point. You're completely right. Those are two different markets, and the way that we would approach both of those should be two separate strategies and would be two separate strategies. What we're seeing is a lot of this drop off is due to the changing work environment. So it is not necessarily due to folks that, have experienced a loss of car or anything like that, but it is majority because they no longer have to necessarily commute to the Chase Bank in downtown Phoenix, for example. That being said, there is still the problem that you mentioned, the folks that don't own a vehicle. That problem that was present before has continued through. So that's still a market that we need to address, and we'll make sure to do so as we continue through this.
Great, thank you. Mr. Chair, just note for the record, because it happens so rarely, this now is twice in 6 months that staff said good point. I just want to make sure that's part of the
There's either cash involved or they're just being exceptionally kind.
Arminta, could you also talk a bit about what we know about the destination change? For example, in 2020, the state capitol complex was an enormous destination. That's changed with, as you said, the nature of people's work location. What did you discover about that?
Yeah, so that's another fantastic point. So the way our current network is set up and was set up historically is that it really served downtown Phoenix. That was the primary market that it served. What our study found is that downtown Tempe is another very another great market that's high in demand, that express service would be fantastic to serve currently. And then in the future, you look at areas, North Phoenix, that would be another huge market. Basically, you're seeing these different employment centers start to pop up, and so they start to become these major attractions for express service. They're not given the transportation network. They may not always be well suited for express service, but you're seeing a lot of these different areas start to pop up that are huge employment centers.
Okay. Arminta, thank you. Moving on to item number 7, using data to identify freeway minor improvement opportunities. This item is on the agenda for information and discussion, will be introduced by Velvet Matthew, Freeway Engineering Manager, and presented by Wang Zhang, Transportation Data Manager.
Good afternoon, Chair Banger and members of the Management Committee. I'm Velvet Matthew, and I'll be giving an overview of the minor improvement projects. And later, Wang Zhang will be speaking specifically about some new data that is available to us and how we can proactively identify future minor improvement projects. So, what is a minor improvement project, and how is it different from a project that has been identified and funded as part of our Freeway Lifecycle Program? Well, the projects in the program are your typical high-cost projects. They require a scoping and environmental phase and can take 2 to 3 years to design. And that is all before construction can even begin. So what if we were able to identify a problem, but wanted to react quickly with a smaller improvement? That's what a minor improvement project is. It is a small cost project with a very specific improvement that can be implemented quickly. So how are these projects funded? The Regional Council approved $5 million annually back in 2019, starting in fiscal year 2020 through 2024. Regional Council increased that annual amount to $10 million in fiscal year 2025. I'd like to show you how that funding has been allocated to date. As you can see on the map, the projects not only vary in location, but they also vary in improvement type. We've increased capacity by adding a lane through restriping. We've addressed bottlenecks at ramps with restriping or small widenings. We've improved intersections, and we've even improved certain aspects of the Duck Park Tunnel. So in the past, these projects have been identified through a variety of methods. Sometimes we've had a study that is currently underway, and we've been able to identify smaller near-term improvements to help the congestion in the area. Other times we have identified projects through operational observations where we've seen the main line freeway backing up and causing a bottleneck, and we've addressed that by restriping or small ramp widenings. Other times we've had our member agencies with the feedback from their constituents identify improvements that once implemented can improve people's daily commutes. And MAG staff has identified projects that once evaluated have simple engineering fixes that require no new right-of-way and can be implemented quickly. So MAG is a very analytical agency, and we have access to very rich data. So how can we leverage that data to proactively identify future minor improvement projects and address them before they become systemic problems in our network? I'll now hand it over to Wong, who will talk about that in more detail.
Dear Chair and members of our Management Committee, if I may continue. So we do feel like there's a new emerging crowdsourced mobility data source can really come into shine in this area in terms of identifying the minor improvement project opportunities. And over the last decade, the mobility data technology or this industry has improved a lot in terms of providing high granularity, high quality, high precision, high frequency level of the mobility data sets to allow us to look at our transportation system from a brand new angle like we never before. In terms of how this technology work, it turns certain amount of the road users as a data connectors. As long as there's a car drive on the roadway, there's a good chance that we're getting this high quality data 24/7 without really spending our own effort to go out to connect the data such as travel time and speed. And I'll talk a little bit more about that. So you may be familiar with, those navigation apps when they show you this traffic conditions where they aggregate the traveling or traffic condition information into a long segments, and they use different color to represent slow down, free flow speed. For example, red or purple represent congested, green represent the free flow speed conditions. I'm using a stretch of the US 60 as example. That has been, a typical tools we also use a lot in the history in terms of helping us understanding where our, for example, freeway congestion problem existed. And now with this new crowdsourced data, specifically connected vehicle data, we get to look at our problems down to the point the data has becoming from the segment level to the point level, and with really high frequency to allow us to much more appreciate where exactly the problem is and potentially coming out with the targeted solutions to better treat it. So once again, this is not the data we go out to connect. We acquire the data from third-party data vendors. is completely anonymous. There's no individual information of the drivers or passengers or cars attributes attached to the data sets. Our own sole interest is to use this data connectively to help us understanding our problems on our transportation network. As I already mentioned, this is really high granularity coming with really high precision of the data. Traditionally, as I mentioned, we mainly look at the segment level of the speed and the travel time. But now with this new crowdsourced data, we get to appreciate exactly the point of those travel speed and the backup slowdowns. Even the harsh break events, lane change events can be potentially extracted from this data sets. All right, with the availability of such kind of data sets, we're able to upgrade our traditional congestion scanning tools, which traditionally we have two modules. We use the segment level of the aggregate speed data to look at the entire system, scan it through, and we're able to confirm that, but everything is done on the aggregate level. Now we are introducing a new module, which is called Module 3, which is bringing those point-based data analytics to help us better understand the problem. I will spend next few minutes to give you a quick walkthrough of that. So the data comes in aggregate level in Module 1. We do the statistical work on that. We're able to capture where the traffic has really become worse over a certain period of time. And then we move on to the next module, which is number 2, we call congestion heat map. How you want to comprehend this is traffic move from the bottom to top, time travel from left to right, and same thing, the red means slow down, the green means free flow speed. So we're able to look at the area of those reddish to see how big the congestion problem is. For example, the wider it gets means the more hours is affected by the congestion, and the longer it gets means more segments, longer stretch of the freeway is under this particular freeway bottleneck's impact. But that's traditionally how we do it. And that's where we stop because that's all we got provided in terms of understanding the problem. Once again, now we can have this point-based kind of bird view type of angle to look at our transportation system to much better understand the root and the reasons of those congestion issues. So with that, let's walk you through with a few. This is outcome of the module 1, which showing you comparing our baseline traffic condition in this case, which is March 2024 condition to the last November 2024. We're able to identify a specific freeway segments in different color representing AM and PM respectively, where the freeway segments has gone bad in terms of the congestion. Once again, this is not the worst bottleneck in our region. I think everybody is quite familiar with the I-10 to the West Valley. There used to be a lot of the slowing down along the I-10 Broadway, no longer. This is not the existing, the worst bottleneck. This is the emerging bottlenecks that just start to become worse. Like Vivian mentioned, we want to be proactively monitor them. We want to be, applying our treatments rather sooner than later, before the problem really got worse. So the first example I would like to walk you through is on the Loop 101 price northbound in the morning. So once again, on the aggregate level, we're able to see comparing November to March condition last year, the northbound travel has become much worse in the morning. It's been validated by our congestion heat map. As we can see, the red areas has gone wider and longer, like I explained to that. You may wonder why, this happened. I think if you have driven in that particular routes, going to, for example, Phoenix downtown or North Scottsdale, you would imagine maybe this is a problem triggered by the movement coming from the northbound of 202, try to get onto the Loop 202, northbound Loop 101, I'm sorry, try to get onto the Red Mountain Loop 202 westbound in that case. But is that really happened? So now we can use this new source of the data to help us further confirm that. So I would like to play this animation. As you can see, where exactly on this bottleneck those slowdown happens. So we don't necessarily see the movement of 101 to 202 causing the issue. Rather, it's a problem on those ramps coming from loop 202, from both directions, try to merge onto the northbound loop 101. This really help us, I mean, the data and the analysis really help us to kind of shift our focus if we want to fix the problem over here. So to help us look at, hey, this is something along loop 101 instead of the merge traffic from 101 to 202. MAC is currently conducting a comprehensive planning study for loop 101. And because of this new finding, we're able to adjust the scope, and we'll make sure our, this study look at the both direction of loop 101 as a whole in order to fix that. Example number 2 is done at the Phoenix and Chandler to the south of the region of the TI between I-10 and South Mountain Loop 202. So specifically on this ramp coming from I-10 westbound, merging onto the Loop 202 westbound, it was free flow in the past just a year ago, as I can show on the left, and then start to become more congested, particularly during the afternoon time. Also confirmed by the congestion heat map, completed almost all green, and now we started to see some red. But what is actually happening on this particular TI, particularly this ramp? Let's play with this animation generated by the connected vehicle data. So when we look at that, we know we now further understand, hey, the congestion problem only occurs on those two ramps. From either direction of the I-10, try to merge onto South Mountain Loop 202. At the same time, the problem is not that severe or is not that bad. As you can see, they are able to pick up the speed as soon as they finish their merge behaviors. This is a classic example of using the data to tell the true stories and potentially coming back with some minor improvement project opportunities, such as lane striping or adding a lane. Those kinds of things don't really cost a lot of public dollars, but effectively solve the problems. So other than the speed, we also can build this kind of animation showing where exactly vehicle stopped on the ramps. Once again, it just reconfirms the problem. The issue is mainly on the two ramps trying to merge together. Once we finish the merge, if we are giving them additional space to merge, to finish those behaviors, they're able to maintain their speed traveling through those ramps. Hopefully the congestion problem will be mitigated. Once again, this is also being evaluated right now for potential alternatives. The last example I would like to walk with you is on the Loop 303 to the West Valley, northbound off-ramp exiting traffic from 303 onto Waddell Road. There's an issue of people struggle to exit the Loop 303 because everybody's trying to make the right turn. It's just causing the long queue. We know there's a queue. We just don't know the timing. We don't know how long the queue is. We don't know how bad it gets. And until we use the data to tell the full story, I want you to pay attention to the animation to the right-hand side. Each red dot is where the vehicle parked. You can see the queue start to propagate to the upstream. I think it did. Right here. Yeah. So if I may replay it, I really would like you guys to see it. Okay, let's try again. Oops, sorry. Thank you. So you can see the development of the queue on that northbound ramp from 303 to Waddell. To a certain degree, the queue is too long. Now get all the way to the main line and start to bring the problem of the off-ramp to the main line traffic. So this is what the data can help us to understand the full spectrum of the problems. Once again, to be evaluated for potential alternatives, working actively on coming out a solution for that. just to wrap up this presentation together with Velvet, so we have implemented this new, congestion scanning methodologies in order to precisely identify the emerging bottlenecks, which once again is a good candidate for minor improvement project coming to help. We'll closely collaborate with all the stakeholders, whether it's internal or external, to make sure everybody's on the same page in terms of understanding the truth. So we can all work together to develop the efficient and data-driven improvement solutions with very good strategic precisions. We think pursuing those targeted high-impact investments is where the data can come in to shine and collaborate with this minor improvement programs. And once again, this is a perfect example or classic example to demonstrate the power of our HalfCent's sales tax, which is unique to our region. So we're able to enable such kind of swift response to any of those emerging challenges. With that, I would like to wrap up our presentation and happy to take any questions. Thank you.
Wong and Velvet, that was outstanding. Do we have any questions for them on the material that was presented?
I would just say, Mr. Chair, where you might have specific areas in your city or the freeways in your city that you want more specific data, Wong and his team just talk to John Bullen and we'll put the power of their data to work on your specific question.
Thank you, Ed. Well, I have a question for you. Probably can't answer, but curious as you were talking. Recently, the decision was made to not allow electrified vehicles to utilize the HOV lane. Did they use data like this to try to understand what that would do to capacity and if there was still enough multi-passenger traffic to justify the use of the lane without over congesting the general purpose lanes that the electric vehicles would now be shifting over to?
Thank you, Chair and members of Management Committee for the great questions. I believe over in the early summer, we had come here to give you a presentation regarding this actions. Was about to expire by the end of the September, so those single occupant blue license plate vehicle can no longer use the HOV system until this past Monday. Starting from Tuesday, everybody's stay on the August 1st, stay out of that. So we're closely monitoring that. We're closely monitoring the change of the traffic conditions, not only for the freeway, but also for the general purpose lane. We believe if everybody complies, there's a tremendous changes brought by this policy change to our traffic conditions. As you would expect, the general purpose lane would have to carry more demand, and the HOV conditions supposed to improve. This data says, to answer your question, can certainly come in to help because it's lane specific. We just have to wait for a couple of months, maybe half a year, to let things pan out, to let the new travel behavior settled, and then we're able to gather those information and come back to you with regard exactly what has happened, how the traffic conditions change on our freeway network is or is not related to this policy change. Yeah. So we're looking forward to provide you with an update within 3 to 6 months.
Okay, thank you, Wong. Okay, if there's no other questions, again, excellent job, Velvet and Wong. Thank you. Okay, moving on to item number 8, State Route 85 Pima Street Study Update. This item is on the agenda for information and discussion and will be presented by Ms. Matthew.
Good afternoon, Chair and members of the Management Committee. I'm here to present the State Route 85 Pima Street Study Update. This project is located in the southwest portion of the MAG region, and more specifically within the town of Gila Bend. It is the main east to west roadway within the town, and it connects Interstate 8 and State Route 85. The city limits are Gila Boulevard to the west and Dodson Street to the east. The roadway parallels the Union Pacific Railroad, and for many of those traveling this portion of roadway, their ultimate destination is actually not the town of Gila Bend. Many of you may be familiar with this roadway if you've driven from Phoenix to San Diego, or in reverse, returning from San Diego to Phoenix, or if you've driven from Phoenix to Rocky Point. You've had to take that loop ramp in order to continue south down State Route 85. And vice versa. If you've driven back from Rocky Point, you again had to take that same loop ramp But this time you had to stop at that stop sign and you had to wait for a gap in the traffic in order to make that left turn to head east. On the north side of the roadway, there are fast food restaurants and gas stations. And on the south side, there is undeveloped land as well as a gas station and some auto parts stores. In general, State Route 85 Pima Street is either 1 or 2 lanes in a direction with a median in the middle for turning movements. In the westbound direction, there is a lane drop as well as a right turn only lane in the western portion of the study. And now I'd like to give you an update on the study. For a little bit of background, State Route 85 Pima Street has some unique characteristics. First, it is virtually State Route 85. It is operated and maintained by the Arizona Department of Transportation. It is the primary road to get to the town of Gila Bend, and it also is a truck route for the movement of goods through the southwest portion of the state. So why are we doing this study? State Route 85 Pima Street connects Interstate 8, State Route 85, and Maricopa Road to the east. And because it connects all those routes, the majority of the traffic is simply passing through. There are high influxes of traffic during holiday weekends, as well as during the winter months. In addition, the posted speed limits on Interstate 8 and State Route 85 are 75 and 65 miles per hour. That drops to 35 miles per hour within the town limits. This makes it extremely difficult for those that are on the north side of the roadway and who would like to make a left turn in order to head east. There is also a future development planned on the north side of the roadway that will only exacerbate the problem even further. So the purpose of the study is to improve the operations and safety of the roadway, and also to develop near-term and full build-out alternatives. The study was initiated in January of this year. The team was able to collect all the data in the spring and then eventually develop near-term and full build-out alternatives. So I'd like to share a couple of the alternatives, but first I want to talk about 2 concepts that are included in all the alternatives. The first concept is what is called a left in, left out. And this is where a configuration where we have a channelizing island in the median, which has specific openings for left turn movements. As you can see here on the picture, the yellow vehicle is making a left turn into the side street, and it has a deceleration lane in order to slow down. And the red vehicle is making a left turn out, and it has an acceleration lane in order to be able to safely get up to speed before it joins oncoming traffic. The second concept is a right in, right out. And many of you are probably very familiar with these. This configuration does not allow any left turn movements in any direction. Vehicles can only make a right turn into the driveway and make a right turn out onto the roadway. So now we can talk about the alternatives. Here's the existing State Route 85 Pima Street. The near-term improvement implements the left in, left out and right in, right outs by using the existing roadway, by just needing to add some restriping and installing raised medians. The team also developed 3 full build-out alternatives, which required widening of the roadway, constructing a new bridge, and potentially needing to acquire new right-of-way. This example shown here is of the signalized full build-out alternative, and it builds upon the new near-term improvement by adding 2 signalized intersections, the first being at Gila Boulevard and the second at State Route 85. So all the alternatives were presented at a public open house meeting that was held recently on September 17th. This gave us the opportunity to answer any questions about the alternatives, as well as to get feedback from the public. And with the feedback that we received from not only the public and the stakeholders, the next steps in the study are for the team to finalize the reports and the recommendations. And we anticipate that will be completed later this fall. And with that, that concludes my presentation. I'd be happy to take any questions.
Thank you, Velvet. Are there any questions from MAG management's members?
Chair and committee. Thank you, Velvet, for your team's hard work. Certainly, there are a number of challenges that the town of Gila Bend faces. I can't underscore enough how being that close to the freeway, just the traffic is just barreling down at 70 miles an hour, 75, and you have folks trying to make turns, and so the safety aspect just cannot be overstated. Additionally, the town has been pretty quiet in terms of development. We are now on an uptick, and so we are looking for this data to help inform our decision making. Certainly, this study is a first step to that. We understand that we will have to move forward with a larger transportation study, as this only addresses the western portion of the town. We have additional potential developments coming onto the east side of town. And so certainly this study was a great opportunity to share with the public. Gila Bend has heard a lot about new things coming to town that haven't transpired. We do have a brand new housing development coming through in town, 19 homes with Newtown Community Corporation, and that's currently underway. So that's going to be, so that's a tangible thing. And so by having this meeting and being able to discuss and look at these boards really made it a tangible thing in town. And so thank you so much for your time and effort.
Thank you, Catherine. Are there any other questions?
Mr. Chair, this is another case I just add. This is sort of a relatively micro project, but it's also an example of where you might have a vexing traffic problem in your community. We have the ability to help with that. This is a little unique because Kathy has the blessing and curse of ADOT being in charge of that roadway. The blessing is that comes with some additional funding from us that we can help with. She can tell you the curse of it later. But for other places, even where there's not ADOT involvement, we do have the ability and the staffing to help you with those really difficult traffic issues.
Thank you, Ed. All right. Thank you, Velvet. All right. Item number 9, Executive Director's Report. This item's on the agenda for information. Ed Circle will present the update.
All right. Thank you, Mr. Chair. In addition, on the other side of the valley, we just had a Meridian Road Corridor study that had a meeting on October 1st with 100 people there. That's Apache Junction, Mesa, Maricopa, and Pinal all together. The road has all those jurisdictions involved, and we appreciated that City Manager from Apache Junction, Bryant Powell, and his Mayor Wilson, were there. It was a very robust conversation. Next slide. Yesterday, you received notifications soliciting applications for the fiscal year 2026 closeout funds. Federal funding is use or lose, and our region uses this process to make sure that we don't ever lose money. So we want to program the money we have here in the region before it expires and goes back to the federal treasury to go somewhere else. So we have $25 million available this year. Applications are due November 13th. It's all spelled out in that email that you got. So make sure you get that to the right person in your agency, and they can follow up with Patrick Stone or Wendy Miller here at MAG. Finally, to recognize someone who presented earlier today, Arminta Syed was recognized as the single winner in the United States of the Rising Professional Award at last month's Association of Metropolitan Planning Organizations Conference in Rhode Island. So a big honor for her. It's given to a professional early in their career in a metropolitan planning organization to celebrate significant achievements and commitment to AMPO's core knowledge, impact, and collaboration values. We're all familiar with Arminta's work, as you just saw today. So please join me in congratulating Arminta for that. Just a couple other things. I didn't know, Wynette, if you had a big announcement this week, if you wanted to say anything.
Wasn't prepared for that, but yesterday I formally announced my intent to retire as of March 6th. So with 5 months notice, Goodyear's a great place. So I'm sure we'll have many candidates. Council will be going out to do a full recruitment here fairly soon. So thank you all.
In the same vein, I will be leaving MAG on November 3rd. So the Regional Council Executive Committee has met to work towards the process for that. So what they decided on September 30th of their meeting was, first of all, that they asked for John Bullen to serve as the interim director while they conduct a process for my replacement. They secondly wanted that process to happen quickly and in a compressed time frame, and be limited to Arizona. So they're asking for an Arizona specific search for the executive director of MAG. They're asking for that to be quick, and so next Tuesday I'll be talking to the Regional Council Executive Committee with a proposed timeline, and we'll see what they say that is, but at the very least, folks who are interested should be prepared for the position to open as soon as the very next day, October 15th. I do want to say thank you to Scott and the city of Mesa. As with the League of Cities and Towns, it's difficult for the agency recruiting to have its people recruiting it when there are very qualified candidates within the agency. And so in this case, the city of Mesa is actually going to be the point of contact for the recruitment. That information will be going, and we're working with Mesa HR. So thank you, Scott, for that. And I think the goal of the committee is to try to identify someone as soon as early 2026. So if you know people who've said to you, I'd be interested in that, tell them they better pay attention, because the window is going to be tight for getting applications in for the Regional Council Executive Committee. But we'll know all that next Tuesday, the 14th, and that'll be made public to everyone at that point. With that, Mr. Chair, thank you very much.
Thank you, Ed. Okay, a number of things to follow up on. Arminta, congratulations on that wonderful recognition and well-deserved. And Gilbert's hiring. Or, hey, when you're chairman, you can abuse the position. Right now, it's my turn. When Ed, these congratulations are half-hearted, only out of jealousy, but it has been a pleasure. And Goodyear is better for having had you at the helm, and best of luck. Ed, thank you for everything you've done for MAG over the years. It's been wonderful to see all the positive changes and the growth in the organization, and the quality of the work being done by staff is better than it's ever been, Ed. So we're glad we're not losing you to retirement like Wynette, and we'll see you back at the helm in Phoenix, where you did a wonderful job the first go around. And lastly, John Bolin, thank you for stepping up and helping keep the ship pointed in the right direction while they do a search for the next executive director. Okay, we'll move on to legislative update. Samantha Klakalak will preside.
One more time where we say the legislature's not meeting, so we're not going to make a report on anything. So yes, that's the right response.
That is the best presentation.
And Samantha agrees with you, Jeff.
All right, item number 11, request for future agenda items. All right, seeing none, any comments from the committee? Okay, with that, we are adjourned.